So I get this question a lot. If you had to write down something on your sheet, your blank sheet of paper, what would it be? Right? So I got that question last time, I get it this time, and I totally get that. And I swear to God, I don't remember having this ability, but I know that you know by now what's the hardest thing for you. You know by now. Stop lying to yourself, right? Just study those things, or make sure that you have that 2 things, and right before you go into the test, just scan it over, visually memorize it. So as soon as you hit that paper, I'm writing it down. Or write down the hardest thing that you have a hard time with, right? So don't write necessarily everything down, but you might write the harder things down. So my thing that I had a really hard time with were wrist ligaments and nerve innervations. So I saved this because I'm gonna probably go through it again. It's not so much that you have to remember the trunks, the roots, divisions, but really the chords are going to be, out of all of them, your chords are going to be the more important ones. You already know the terminal branches, but out of those terminal branches, these 2, the musculocutaneous and the axillary one, aren't as common. So it's like, okay, I need to remember that where that kind of comes out of, right? And then you sort of need to remember from C5, potentially the phrenic nerve, and the superior one, that's where your rotator was, because it relates back to the shoulder, right? But really here, the chords and the terminal branches, where you need to remember, because it's the thing that most relates to the hand, right? And how the arm moves and stuff like that. And I would say my 2 weakest areas were those. And it was that because I didn't, like, wrists were just really hard for me. Like, I know some of you guys remember the mnemonic stuff. That shit made it harder for me to remember. So it was never my thing, like remembering someone's name and where they went. Kudos to you if that helps you. Please keep doing it. But it was hard enough for me to remember that there were 8 bones and how to say it. So you kind of just have to do what's right for you, right? So for me, it was those 2 things. And it was more of a, if they ask me a question, but what I'm supposed to do, because of such and such and such and stuff, I'm gonna have to remember the nerve innervations, right? So that was my biggest thing. So it wasn't that I didn't remember all of them. It was that I couldn't remember certain ones very well. So let's say out of the 3 terminal branches, your hardest one is the radial nerve, then just make sure you know the median and the ulnar nerve shit really well. And then the only thing you have to really write down, because you didn't really kind of get it as well, was the radial nerve. My issue wasn't the bones of the wrist. Like, I could draw those squares or those circles on my wrist and could kind of visualize. It wasn't about knowing exactly where to touch, right? Because we kind of want to know where to touch and how to mobilize stuff and how to feel things, but they don't ask you those questions. So I literally would draw stuff on my arm and I would just kind of remember where they were, because in my mind I could learn that way. But there were certain ligaments that were a pain in the ass, you know, the dislocation stuff. If this ligament got ruptured, you know, the scaphoid to the lunate, or, you know, that kind of stuff, like, it had a hard time. Like, I had a hard time with it, you know? And so that was the thing that I, like, right before I went, I was like, okay, if I could just remember these things, I would be okay. Because everything else, you really can critically think through the particular problem. I know you can. I know you have a ton of knowledge in there, and if there's anything else that you should write on that piece of paper, it's like, it should say, slow down, your name. Don't write your name, write your actual name, okay? Your actual name. Like, slow down, Huang. breathe, you can do this, right? If you're gonna write anything down to remember, that's to slow down. You're gonna be in the mindset. You're gonna be in the mindset, right? Because you're gonna be relaxing yourself. You're gonna be talking yourself through, because this is the last part of your race, you know, the last 3 miles, right, of this marathon that you're on. And you're gonna tell yourself, I can do it, I can do it, I'm almost there, there's no quitting now, I can do it, right? And you're just gonna muster up essentially that adrenaline, that excitement that you're almost there and that you've been successful already, right? Doesn't matter how long, nothing else matters, but right now that you've been successful, that you are successful, because you're sitting there, right? So just try to, you know, remind yourself of that, because you're gonna be in the mindset. Sometimes when we're studying right now, don't hold it against yourself, right? That you didn't get it right. I was looking at a question that someone sent me, Vanessa sent me, and I was in the middle of doing other things. My brain was like doing other things, and I was like, oh, let me look at this question. And then I'm reading it, and then I'm trying to answer it, and I read it incorrectly because I wasn't in the mindset, you know, I just wasn't. And then I was like, none of this makes sense. But then it was because I missed the what does not fit in with blah, 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 right? And then I didn't read the not part. It's really just that, right? So if there's anything you should write in there, it's just to slow down and that you could do it.